way, so welcome staff meeting. So,
Don't talk for longer than 15 minutes.
Under 15 minutes. No, we're kidding. She's like, what?
yes, Pete, you'll be up here later. So.
Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, Mrs. Shumway
Yes.
and Mr. Gertz.
Yes.
First item on the agenda is to approve or amend the meeting minutes from prior meeting of September 8th, 2015.
And so move that we approve the minutes as referenced earlier.
I second that motion.
Call the vote, Mr. Gertz
Yes.
and Mrs. Shumway.
Yes.
All right, next up is open to the public.
Go ahead, Bill, you get to call this time.
Oh. Are you going to behave yourself?
I'm always good.
Okay, then you can come up first then. Remember your bond under oath that you're going to behave yourself.
I ain't got to do that part. I'm Ed Buckles from Troy Township. It was my understanding that Judge Condell was going to be here today. Going to be here later. And I look forward to his report on the unauthorized firearms in the children's camp. And assume it won't be a cover-up. I see Ms. O'Brien is here. As we recognize some of the Geauga community among the people handling the firearms, that it won't be a whitewash arguing that the park or that the judge gave permission because the bylaws do not recognize such exceptions, that it won't be argued that the park was ignorant of the possibility because we had put the park on notice that such activities had taken place at other camps, and that it won't be rationalized as a valuable educational opportunity because all it taught children was that if you're political friends with those in power, you can break the rules. I was also curious as to why the survey has not been published and why it isn't being followed, why we're seeing trails being open to mixed use in spite of the fact that of the hazard increase. I know Mr. Andre's usual answer is that the park has a limited liability, and that may well be true, but I wonder if that limited liability holds up well when there have been deliberate actions to increase the hazards on the trails that you've been warned about. I hope we don't have to find out what the answer to that is the hard way. By the way, I was out at the Rotary recently, and there is a great kiosk there that outlines the history of the interurban railway on the kiosk and a description of the history there and the significance of the Rotary in that history. Likewise, there are some great signs along the Westwoods trails involving the water cycle and the importance of the water and Silver Creek in the environment. More of that should be done. I mean, there's a wonderful history of the onion wars that took place at Elton Russell Park. But while we're talking about the Rotary, I noticed that the gate at the end of the trail near the golf course is in disrepair, and an open invitation to four-wheelers and snowmobiles. That probably should be taken care of. There's some indication that four-wheelers have been there already, although those may be park maintenance vehicles. Likewise, some of the bridges in Swine Creek need repair. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's lots of places that the park should be spending its money, not on projects, but on making the parks more inviting, more educational for the public. And those are some of the things that could be done in that way. So we look forward to hearing from the judge. It would be interesting to have an interaction with him about what's going on with the park, and particularly why the survey is not being adhered to. It is an interesting question when 1,900 people respond and say they want passive recreation in the park and go through things like hiking and bird watching and nature viewing and photography. And what we're hearing now is that the parks are going to be more open to hunting and closing out the parks to residents during turkey season or deer season or wherever, while the photography club gets bounced for being elitist. A smaller and smaller number of people who are hunting are getting more and more access to the parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I think you'll find that a survey is being conducted right now as to how many deer we have, how many, whether we're to trap the waterfowl. Isn't that correct, John?
I know.
According to my minutes, the survey is in process, so we don't know yet how many hunters are going to
Well,
be.
I understand there is a push in some quarters to open the park and more hunting. I have no problem with controlled hunting, and no problem with maintenance, because deer are destructive. And
If they open up for hunting, I don't know about it.
John, I don't think John Ross does either, so it's controlled hunting.
No, it's only controlled. It's the only hunting we're going to have. Thank you. Next. Come on up. I'll tell the same thing to you. You better behave.
No promises. I think I'm always well behaved. At least in this venue I am. What I do outside of here is another matter. I'm Shelley Chernin from Russell Township. And what I would like to talk about mostly is how moving the public comment period to the beginning of the meetings has negatively affected the interested public. And I'm going to use myself as an example. Last month, during public comment, as you know, I raised a concern about the video that appears to show a violation of sections 11.2 and 11.3 of the Park District's rules and regulations. These are the sections that deal with firearms and primitive weapons in the county parks. As I said to you last month, I personally spoke to Mr. Oros months before the apparent rules violations occurred to inform him that the group scheduled to use the park, Liberty Camp, had possessed and discharged firearms in a video of a program that they had run the summer before in Portage County. So we knew ahead this was a possibility. I simply asked Mr. Oros to make sure that those running the camp were informed of the Park District's rules and regulations and that those rules and regulations were followed. Mr. Oros and I agreed at that time in our conversation the park facility should be open to all groups equally, regardless of political orientation. It's not about politics. This is about rules and regulations. So I was told at the last board meeting that the board would look into any possible rule violations. I followed up with an email to the entire board and to Mr. Oros asking to be informed about the results of the board's investigation. I received an email back from Mrs. Shumway stating that she would address what she called my, quote, personal concern at the October board meeting, which is where we are now. I personally don't view violations of Park District rules and regulations as my personal concerns. Rather, I consider them important public concerns. Be that as it may, here we are, 1 month later, back to public comment time, and I've heard nothing about the results of the investigation into this matter. 1 month later. I understand there's an item on the agenda entitled Liberty Camp. Perhaps my specific complaint about rules violations will be addressed then, and perhaps not. I certainly don't know. The feeling that I'm left with is that the Park District is intentionally stalling and stonewalling on matters that could be dealt with quickly and efficiently. Why? My sense is that my input as a member of the public is not wanted. My sense is that the Park District does not want to be responsive to the public. My sense is that you all want to do what you want to do, and that if you can find ways to frustrate or game me or other members of the public who would like to participate in this public organization, and it is a public organization, and an organization that wouldn't even exist without the tax money from me and from the rest of the public. But if you can, you're going to frustrate and you're going to game us. Except I'm not playing. I don't like games. I want an organization that will respond in a timely manner to public concerns, with proper attention given to serious problems like violations of the regulations. And if that means shifting the time of the public comment period, or perhaps allowing public comment twice during the meetings at the beginning and the end, in order for us to be heard and for prompt attention to be given to these matters, and I request that you make the change rather than timing the public comment intentionally to postpone needed action in response to public concerns. On another note, just briefly, I want to say that I see that House Bill 8, the oil and gas land aggregation bill, is also on the agenda today. And I want it on the record that Protect Geauga Parks contacted our local legislatures last June to oppose this bill. I personally, this morning, contacted the Office of State Senator Troy Balderson. He's the chair of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. There's been no action on this bill since the committee heard sponsor testimony last March, and Senator Balderson's office is unsure if any further hearings will be scheduled at all, ever. So I'm on the list to be notified prior to any committee hearings on House Bill 6. If any other hearings ever take place, the bill may or may not be dead at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. John, aren't you going to talk today?
I was going to give somebody else a chance before
I just wanted to bring John up because last month he didn't have anything dire to say about the park board. He conducted his hire to the Parkman Road Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Partington. I live in Munson Township. First of all, I want to say thanks to John Augustine for his loyal support, his long-term interest in the park, and for videotaping all of these park board meetings. For the people who are watching today via YouTube, please help by linking your friends to the YouTubes, so that even though the park board meetings are at inconvenient times, you can at least see what transpired. So thanks again, John. Please link us to your other organizations as well. So Protect Geauga, and you can find the links at protectgeaugaparks.us. One final thing is on October 24th, Saturday, there will be a program at Kent State Burton, sponsored by protectgeaugaparks.us, and it will occur at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Saturday the 24th. It's called Back to the Wild. It's about animal rehabilitation of wild animals who have been injured and who are now being rehabilitated to return to the wild. So it's a great program for adults and especially children at this time too. So make a note of that on your calendars, and we'll hope to see you on the 24th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone, when you come up for public opinion, the whole concept here is that it's public opinion, park-related business. So I can appreciate that you are doing your advertising for your
Everything I do is park-related business.
promotions, but that's not Geauga Park District, that's your own personal.
One thing I wanted to say about John Augustine's article, it was a very good article and I agreed with it. Being a trustee myself for 26 years, I fully agree with what he wrote. Put it on. I'm talking about, I don't care about that. That's all anything I want to.
Oh my goodness.
John, did you want to respond to that last statement about the fact that someone was aimed at you?
Which part?
Notification.
Notification regarding Liberty Camp?
Well, the young lady was directing a lot of that to you as far as not getting enough information and to doing this, and there were a lot of surmises and some suppositions in there. But
Sure.
If you don't have anything to say, that's.
We issued a special use permit to the Geauga County Tea Party to conduct Liberty Camp, a 5-day camp, which, as Mrs. Sherman and I agree, would be for any other group in the county. And as far as, she did let me know that the Portage County Tea Party evidently had a firearms demonstration on their property. I was aware of it. It's important to note when you look at muzzleloaders and if you truly understand firearms, that there are a number of ways that these ordinances can be discharged for demonstration purposes. One of those ways is the American Legion came and dedicated 2 of our flagpoles with a 21-gun salute. I saw no harm, nor do I see any harm in allowing the people at Liberty Camp to discharge a flintlock firearm, which is nothing more than black powder, no projectile, to demonstrate their purposes of the Minutemen to the children of Geauga County that participated in Liberty Camp. So I would respectfully disagree with Mrs. Sherman.
Besides, the other thing is that the state of Ohio recognizes primitive weapons, crossbows, longbows, shotguns, not rifles. And of course, we go according to ODNR on that, as to what we can allow.
The rules say specifically about muzzleloaders.
Is that the UGA rule?
We know what the rule says, and there are a number of topics or issues or decisions that come from the position of the executive director that are made by me, and so be it, as well as the Board of Park Commissioners.
There's no provision in the bylaws.
We're not gonna argue, Ed, we're not gonna argue it.
No, he's just going to state, like I said, a whitewash.
Next,
Excuse me, could you just speak into the microphone, because I have a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
I'll get right on top of it, how's that? Okay, John.
And John Augustino, Parkman Township resident. Just going back, since Liberty Camp was the last topic here, I'd just like to mention.
excuse me, John, raise your mic up so that
Okay.
everybody can hear you.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention just to mention something about that. I believe the rules don't say anything about the firearms being loaded or not. I believe the prohibition is against firearms, period, but I may be wrong about that. Anyway, after I had heard about that discharge of firearms, I called and I asked the rangers if there was any investigation. And I talked with Dennis Sloan, and he refused. He said he'd heard about it, but he would not tell me whether it was being investigated or not.
That's not true, John.
That's exactly true. You would not tell me that whether it was being, I believe I have the floor here.
I was advised of it and was looking into it.
You did not tell me you were looking into it. Really? I asked you, in fact, I asked you twice
John,
whether it was being investigated.
Let's step outside and we'll talk about it, and then you can have a meeting with me downstairs.
Oh, get out of here.
Absolutely. That way you guys can go on, you and I can talk about, and we can set up an appointment.
I'll finish this first and I'll be glad to go out and talk with you. Okay. Again, Dennis told me, he said he had heard about it, but he would not tell me whether it was being investigated or not. I thought that was rather strange. Another thing I had heard about is up at Headwaters that the restroom and the marina were going to be costing somewhere in the order of $500,000 for those 2 facilities there, and it just seemed like a huge amount of money to be spending. And it's something that didn't agree with if you look at the public survey, I think the public would much rather see that money being spent on protecting areas around the park. In the past, I've suggested conservation easements around the park to prevent to slow down development in those areas. Regarding the trapping report, I noticed on there, in fact, this was mentioned last week, a weasel was unintentionally trapped And I guess I'm kind of wondering, I saw that on the report, and I was kind of wondering, how do you track, the tracking that they've been doing is either raccoon or muskrat or beaver, and typically you trap those underwater, you set the traps underwater. I'm not aware that weasels like to swim.
Let me tell you, if you lose 25 chickens to a weasel, you don't mind how he died.
Well, again, I'm kind of wondering what happened to it, whether when an animal like that gets trapped, that's not the intentional animal to be trapped, does it just get thrown buried? I'd like to suggest that something like that, the Cleveland Museum would be interested in having those as a documented specimen for their collection. So I'd like to suggest in the future, if something should be unintentionally trapped, that the trappers be notified to either freeze them or bring them to the park so that they can be gotten to the museum for a document specimen.
John, you're aware we have our own freezer, right?
Yeah, I know you have, but however you want to do it, just something I would like to.
John, I have a lake on my property, and I let a trapper trap the muskrats out, but from time to time we'll get a mink or we'll get a weasel in the trap, and that's fine because they're deadly on chickens and ducks and everything else.
Well, they're part of the ecology, their predators have their place, I'd like to mention something about the newsletter it just seems like every month now there's pictures of sports activities or children playing or something, and since the majority of the people, judging by the survey, think conservation and protecting wildlife and protecting natural areas is the most important reason for the park, maybe there should be, that should at least be half of the pictures should be conservation or natural history related. You used to use recycled paper, and I've noticed for a certain period of time here that little logo has been missing, and I've called a couple times to try and get information as to why, and I still am not clear as to why it appears you're not using recycled paper anymore. Paper has to, at least by the way the rules used to be, it has to be at least 20% post-consumer for you to even call it recycled. So apparently the recycled content now is so low that you can't call it recycled, and I think this is one of the things that the Park District should be setting an example of by using as much post-consumer recycled paper as they can. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Mrs. Henry. You're not in your usual spot.
No, I'm not. Sorry about that. Came in late. Hi, I'm Kathy Hannity. I'm from Chardon Township. I have one question, not necessarily a question that needs answered today, but just for the board, for the record. In 2014, the duties and authority of the executive director were severely truncated. The responsibilities and the not so much the responsibility, there was still a lot of responsibility, but considerably less authority was given. And that change was made in the bylaws. Have the bylaws been changed to change that back? Because it appears that there's quite a bit more authority granted now than there had been. So that was just mine. And if that could just be looked into, if it's something that needs to be changed. I know that it was a very specific change in the bylaws last year. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Henry. Mrs. O'Brien.
I'm Linda O'Brien, and as you seem to know, I live in Russell Township, and I am responsible for Liberty Camp. And I have to tell you, I am most proud of that. We had 56 children and 18 patriots that benefited from Liberty Camp. We've gotten national recognition, and without our park district, I don't know where else we would have found such an ideal location to teach children through real life living reenactment what this country is all about, the values that made us great then and the values that make us great today. So I want to thank this wonderful park and everyone who keeps this park in great tip-top operation for what you do. It's phenomenal that we have these 9,000 acres. And Liberty Camp is a small part of how I enjoy the park. Today I'm a grandmother, hard to believe. But my little 4-year-old thinks that Nora the Explorer, and she thinks that's her middle name, but she thinks that Nora is a member of our family. So we go and visit Nora regularly. We have our own bug collection in the barn. And we're in various parts of this park doing all sorts of wonderful activities that children, if you can imagine, enjoy. So whether it's, catching and releasing crickets or something even grander than that, but we went to the Bugs R Us, if I'm saying that right, the movie that they did outdoors, like the old time theaters or drive-ins, except we, sat on a blanket. And I was so thrilled because there were hundreds of people there of all ages. And so from the days of my riding through those trails, and to the days of my now having a granddaughter that just loves the parks, I want to thank Geauga County. I'm grateful to be part of this county, and I'm grateful for everyone else that contributes to us having such a wonderful park district.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien.
I just have to correct one error. We have 10,000 acres better than mine.
This young lady in the back. Not like a breath of fresh air, Mrs. O'Brien. Thank you.
We all need a little oxygen anyhow.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Webb. I live in Munson Township, and I'd like to go back to the survey just for a moment, please. So much of park business seemed to be put on hold pending the results of the 2015 survey of Geauga County residents. At one of last year's park board meetings, Mrs. Shumway told us that although pristine properties were available for the parks to consider purchasing, she would not approve any such purchase until she, and I think I'm quoting, heard from the people by means of the survey. Well, the results are now in, and the professional company that the parks chose to conduct and analyze the survey have said that the results are statistically valid and representative of the residents of the county. So the people of Geauga County have spoken. If you refer to the survey results, which you won't find on the park website, by the way, you can find the results on the Protect Geauga Parks website. We have them posted. It's not difficult to do. And you will see that the people of Geauga County do want more parkland. At some of the park board meetings this year, we have heard the commissioners direct park staff to prepare to purchase property. As far as I know, that hasn't happened yet. But I think we deserve some answers. There's some explaining to be done about the intent of the park to follow through on the wishes of the people and purchase more parkland. Thank you.
If there are no other participants in this, shall we go with Judy?
Skip.
Yeah, miss, I didn't recognize him with his hair on.
I came in incognito for a second.
Skip Claypool. I would also like to commend the park board.
You want to introduce yourself, some of these people, we all know you.
I'm Skip Claypool, I think I mentioned that. So, citizen Skip Claypool today. And served as Jefferson in the Liberty Camp. And was very proud to do that. I think it's important. I know that there are individuals in this room who talk about heritage. and how important heritage is. Our national